When you think of the Supreme Court, you probably picture this grand building with marble columns, right? But long before all that, it was just an idea. A blueprint, really, sketched out in an essay by none other than Alexander Hamilton. So today, we're going to unpack that original vision from Federalist No. 78 and see exactly how he designed the American judiciary.
So think about it. This was the huge puzzle Hamilton had to solve. How do you design a court that's strong enough to stand up to a president and a Congress, but not so powerful that it becomes a threat itself? It's a real tightrope walk, right? So how did he pull it off? Okay, so to get our heads around Hamilton's design, we're going to walk through 4 key ideas. First up, we'll tackle his kind of surprising claim that the judiciary is the least dangerous branch. Then we'll dig into where its real power comes from, what he called the power of judgment. After that, we'll see how he wanted to protect that power inside a citadel of independence. And finally, we'll put all those pieces together to see what he envisioned as the court's lasting role. All right, so Hamilton's first move here is, while it's a little counterintuitive, to build a court that could actually be trusted with real power, he argued that you first had to make it, believe it or not, fundamentally weak. To really get what he's saying, you have to look at how Hamilton saw power. For him, the executive branch, well, that's the sword. It has the military, the power to enforce things. And the legislature, it controls the purse, all the money. So with the sword and the purse taken, what on earth was left for the courts? Well, the answer is not much. At least nothing you can touch. Hamilton put it perfectly. The judiciary has neither force nor will. Just think about that. It doesn't have an army. It doesn't have a police force. It can't even write its own budget. All it can do is issue opinions. And then it has to hope. It has to completely depend on the other branches to actually carry them out. And this, right here, is the absolute core of his design. The judiciary's weakness isn't a bug. It's a feature. Hamilton was convinced that because it was so, feeble on its own, it could never endanger the general liberty of the people. It's just too weak to ever become a tyranny by itself. Okay, so if the court is designed to be the weakest link, where does its incredible influence really come from? Well, that brings us to its one and only true weapon, the power of judgment. Now, Hamilton's entire argument hinges on this one idea. The U.S. has what's called a limited constitution. All that means is that it puts specific fences around what the government, especially Congress, can do. It says you can't do this, you can't do that. But who's the referee? Who makes sure Congress actually stays inside those fences? The logic he uses is just so simple and elegant. It's a core principle. An agent can't have more power than the person who hired them. Think about it. The government is an agent, a servant of the people. It gets its authority from them. So it makes sense that no law passed by the agent can ever be more powerful than the original rules the people themselves laid out in the Constitution. This sets up a really clear chain of command, a hierarchy of power. Right at the very top, you've got the people. They're the boss. The Constitution, that's the boss's direct orders, their will written down. The legislature, well, they're just an employee, an agent, hired to do a job. And that means any old law they pass has to come second to the Constitution. The boss's orders always win. And this right here is the essence of what we call judicial review. When a court strikes down a law, Hamilton argues that the court isn't flexing its muscles and saying, hey, we're better than Congress. No, it's simply saying the will of the people is more important than the will of their agents. The court is just the umpire, making sure everyone plays by the people's original rulebook. But, making those kinds of calls, standing up to a powerful Congress and telling them, nope, that law is out of bounds, that takes guts. And the judges need to be protected to do it. This brings us to Hamilton's plan for what he called a citadel of independence. Hamilton saw the courts as this kind of neutral zone, an intermediate body standing right between the people and the legislature. Their whole job is to keep the legislature in check. But to do that, they have to be totally insulated from all the political winds and the momentary passions that can sweep through the elected branches. I just love the image he uses here. He calls them bulwarks. A bulwark is like a defensive wall on a fortress. He's saying the courts aren't supposed to be out there creating new policies. Their job is defensive, to protect the Constitution from being attacked or worn down by the legislature. So how do you build this wall? What's it made of? For Hamilton, the key ingredient is lifetime tenure. Judges hold their office during good behavior, which, for all practical purposes, means for life. And this, he argued, is the absolute cornerstone of judicial independence. And when you compare the two options, the difference is just night and day. Hamilton was sure that lifetime tenure frees up a judge to be truly firm and impartial, focusing only on the law and the Constitution. But if you have temporary appointments, he thought judges would just become political players, always worried about pleasing the president or Congress, or just riding the latest wave of public opinion. So this independence isn't just for the judge's benefit. It serves some really vital purposes for everyone. It gives them the backbone to block unconstitutional laws. It helps them stand firm against what he called occasional ill humors, basically temporary mob outrage. It lets them protect the rights of individuals. And hey, as a nice side effect, Hamilton figured the security of a job for life would help attract the best and brightest legal minds to the bench. All right, so let's zoom out and put all the pieces of the puzzle together. What does Hamilton's final blueprint for the Supreme Court actually look like when it's all assembled? It's really a brilliant interlocking system, isn't it? It starts with the idea that the court is the least dangerous branch. No sword, no purse. Its only real power is judgment, which means interpreting the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. That role forces it to strike down any laws that conflict with the Constitution. But to exercise that judgment honestly, without fear, it has to be independent. And how do you guarantee that independence? Through lifetime tenure. See how each piece just locks into the next? It's a really elegant design. And that really leaves us with a big, important question for today. Hamilton laid out this whole plan more than 235 years ago. He imagined a court that would be the guardian, the bulwark of a limited constitution. In our world, an age of superheated political debate about the court's proper role, you have to wonder, how is his blueprint holding up?